Hey guys, what's up? It's Vanessa. I am here with a bookish video today. I am actually doing an author spotlight on Abby Jimenez. I just discovered her books this weekend and I love them so much that I need to talk about them. I am specifically going to be talking about her debut novel, The Friend Zone, and then its companion novel, which I don't actually have, called The Happily Ever After Playlist. I believe these are her only two books she has. There is a third book coming out in April of 2021. I do want to give a little bit of a synopsis without any spoilers for The Friend Zone. And then after I do that, I will let you know, and I'm going to spoil the crap out of this book because I really want to talk about it with somebody. So here we go. The Friend Zone is a dual perspective romance, and it follows Kristen and Joshua. These are our two main characters, our two love interests. They actually meet because Kristen's best friend Sloane is getting married to Joshua's best friend Brandon, and they are going to be the maid of honor and the best man at their wedding. So this is kind of how it takes off. At the beginning of our book, Kristen is in a committed relationship that she's been in long distance for 2 years with, I don't know what his name is, but anyways, what is his name? I don't know. But her boyfriend is in the military, so that's why they are long distance, and they're coming to a point in their relationship where he's about to get out of the military and he's going to come and live with her for the first time ever. And this is both exciting but also daunting and kind of complicated for Kristen. Kristen is also going through some stuff. She's about to have this like secret surgery that she doesn't want people to know about. She is having some infertility issues, and that is kind of where we start. So I went into this book not knowing anything about it. In my TBR, I talked about how one of my coworkers, the librarian at my school, said I had to read it. So I've been holding on to it since then, and I knew I wanted to get to it. I didn't realize how much I was going to love it. So the second book, Happily Ever After Playlist, is actually a companion novel to The Friend Zone. It's not a continuation of the story. It does follow the timeline. This one does come first and then that one comes second, but it's actually about Sloane and not Kristen, and it's also a romance novel. I didn't know anything going into it, and I think you should not know anything going into it as well because it just made it so perfect. Something really cool about the Happily Ever After playlist is that they actually curated a playlist to go with that book, and they put it both on Spotify and Apple Music playlist. I don't know, I have Spotify, I don't know how Apple works. But every chapter has a song that goes along with it. So the way that Abby Jimenez intended was for you to listen to the song and then read the chapter. Yeah, I couldn't do that because I was so into this book that I just devoured it. But my second time around, or some point this weekend, I'm going to listen to this playlist and just get back in my field. A little bit about these books before I get into spoilers. Some tropes that you might not be into, but that do come up in these books that I feel like actually make it kind of realistic. I know people are so against like insta love, but I feel like that's how I function as a human. Like, I didn't even know my husband for a full year before we got married, and we've been together for over 5 years. We'll be married for 5 years in February, and I just like, I am an insta love kind of person. I think that's one of the main ones that people don't like. Also, something else that's really cool about it is that I actually read Happily Ever After Playlist was actually written before The Friend Zone, and it was supposed to be the debut novel. But while Abby Jimenez was selling this book, she actually wrote The Friend Zone and then decided to make it the debut novel based on the timeline. I really like that in the acknowledgments of these books, Abby Jimenez talks about how both of these books talk about heavy subjects, like some type of heavy subject. She got all of this information from her friends who have been through similar things, and I think it's so important to actually make things like this realistic because people do go through these things, infertility, and can't talk about Happily Ever After because spoiler. But I think it's so important that she actually knew people who went through this stuff, talked to them, experienced it as a friend of someone who went through this stuff, and then was able to write a book about it. I think it's really helpful for people going through these types of situations. So it's really cool that she wrote about it. Also, just super cool thing about Abby Jimenez, she actually owns a bakery. I don't know if she still does, but Nadia Cakes, I think is what it's called, is how, like, it's her business. And I'm pretty sure I remember watching her on like Cake Boss competitions or like something like that. And then she got her bakery, and then she became like a writer after the fact. And it was so cute because in the second book they talk about getting cakes at Nadia Cakes, and I was like, that's so sweet. Like, her two worlds came together. Okay, into spoilers now because I cannot wait any longer. So, the friend zone. Starting here, first of all, the first thing I want to talk about is the fact that I went into this not knowing what it was about. And when I found out that Kristen was in a relationship and her boyfriend was in the military, I was kind of put off because I was like, oh, is this gonna be like cheating? Like, that's not cool. I'm not into that. It kind of like put me off to the book. But I feel like the way that it was done and how there was like that ultimatum. So in the book, hopefully you've read it if you're still here, you know how they talk about how she had told him that if he re-enlisted, then they couldn't be together anymore because she just wanted him to be home. I mean, I know that people being in the military is difficult, and like I myself have never been in that, but like my sister, her wife was in the military, in the army. She actually just got out, and I know it's kind of straining on people's relationship, especially being apart from each other. I have been in a long distance relationship before, and it was extremely difficult. So I know having these conversations is hard, but it wasn't just that. I think it was great that they had the conversation about how Sloane told Kristen that she thought that she was just settling, because I think that's huge. I think that it's so important that we call our friends out on these things because it's not okay to settle. There is great stuff out there. And I feel like she was settling, especially like there was a moment. So once Joshua started staying at her house because he was her carpenter and was staying in the guest bedroom, there was a point in the book where Kristen is talking to her boyfriend. Why can't I remember what his freaking name is? I don't know. She's talking to him and she's just like, oh yeah, there's a hot fireman staying in our guest bedroom. And I was just like, in what world is this okay? Like, she just told her boyfriend that there's a hot guy staying in their guest bedroom. And I was like, what? To me, that was kind of the point where I realized like their relationship was very different. I didn't feel like Kristen was in love with him, but we didn't really get to see that a lot. I feel like we were very sold on Joshua and Kristen's relationship, and from the very beginning, I just needed them to be in love, especially when they were like, this hot fireman. I was like, yes, Kristen, go for the hot fireman. Another thing that I feel was so frustrating but so realistic was the miscommunication. These are the type of things that happen. So how Joshua just thought that Kristen was hung up on her ex and she was crying and sad because she missed him or whatever, but really she was sad because Joshua kept talking about how much he wanted a family and how kids are his world, and Kristen was just feeling like she was never going to be able to give him that. So it was so hard for her, and like that's why she kept deciding that they couldn't be together. And the whole time I was just screaming at my book, like, just tell him that this is what it is. Tell him that that's why y'all can't be together, not whatever it is that he's thinking. And I was so frustrated, but I felt like it was so real. And then there was so many points like that I just felt for Josh because he didn't deserve it. He was so sweet, and he just like, he wanted to love her and she didn't let him, and it was for reasons like I understand how hard that was for her, but I just wanted her to let him in. And then when the thing with Brandon happened, I like cried. I was not expecting that whatsoever. Like that came out of left field for me. When Brandon got in his car wreck, I was just like, what is happening? What is this? And I had to take a break because I started screaming, and my husband came in here and he was like, okay, chill out. So I had to like take a break, decompress, and then just watching or reading Sloane go through that, but seeing how quickly like Kristen just stepped in the role of best friend, and kind of how like this romance was put to the side because friendship was so important. It just melted my heart. The ending really brought me to tears. How even through Sloane's heartache and grieving when Brandon did die, she still was the best friend to Kristen and helped Josh pull everything off at the very end so that they could get married and be together. So whenever Kristen was having her like dizzy spells or whatever, I was like, I bet she's pregnant, but there's no way she can be. But I bet she is. I cried at the end when I found out she was pregnant. And then not even when she was pregnant, but like them just accepting the fact that that was a miracle baby and that it probably wasn't going to happen again, and letting her go through with her surgery so she wouldn't be in pain anymore. Like, okay, some lines from the friend zone that I were like, these lines just, they got me. I felt them. There's one point in the book, and I put it in my Instagram story, where they're at the bachelor party in Vegas, and this whole thing they're going back and forth about how they're just friends with benefits, but Joshua is like in love with Kristen, but he doesn't think she loves him back, but really she's just struggling with her infertility and feeling like she's never going to be enough for him. But they're talking as guys, like there's a lot of guy talk in this book, and one of the friends says like, how many of your hoodies does she have? And he was like, none. And then she was like, girls love hoodies. Like, if she doesn't have your hoodie, then she's not into you. But in a little bit more of a vulgar way. And I just laughed because I was like, this is so true. Like, girls love hoodies. Girls love stealing clothes. Like, even now, I live with my husband and I sleep in his clothes. So he has to do laundry twice as fast as I do, which is just funny to me. Another thing that, a line that just like broke me is they're talking about, oh, I didn't even talk about how the stupid boyfriend comes back and proposes after he's broken up with her, and I hated him and I wanted it to just be done. Anyways, but Josh was talking and he says a line about how he's like, I'm hers, she's not mine. And that like just broke me. Like, I felt that so hard, especially because like he's just saying how he was so devoted to her and he's willing to be there for her no matter what, and she doesn't reciprocate that. And even though us as readers, like, we know that that's not true, like, it just hurt my heart to know that that's how he felt. That was the point in the book where I was like, she doesn't deserve you. You deserve more, Josh. But yeah. So if you've read The Friend Zone, now we can talk about what Happily Ever After is about. So Happily Ever After takes place after The Friend Zone, and this is Sloane's romance novel after Brandon dies. And I didn't like this book as much as I like The Friend Zone. I didn't have a problem with the insta-love. I had a problem with the dating a musician or dating someone famous, because that just doesn't seem realistic to me. And I know it's realistic to some people. Obviously, like, there's people who live it, but me could never be, right? So it was kind of harder to make that connection, like to feel like it was realistic, but I still enjoyed the story so much. So in the second book, we follow Sloane and Jackson. He has two names. One of them's real, one of his is his stage name. Jason. Jake, Jackson, I don't know, whatever. With this one, it was a little bit different though, because I kind of didn't know what like the plot, I didn't really know where we were following. Like, I feel like in the friend zone, our main goal was just to get Kristen and Joshua together, and it was like the ending was going to be when they came together and they were together and it was going to be great. But in the Happily Ever After playlist, they were kind of together from the beginning. I thought it was really cute that the dog brought them together. Like, that was cute. But a lot of the things that they went through in their relationship, to me, wasn't realistic, but I still enjoyed it. I don't think I'm actually going to spoil Happily Ever After because I don't feel about it as much as I do about the friend zone. But if you read the friend zone, definitely check out the Happily Ever After playlist because I thought it was just as good, give or take like 0.5 of a star. But yeah, that has been my spoilery review. Hopefully it made some sense about the friend zone. Thank you guys so much for watching, and if you haven't, please go ahead and subscribe. It really helps me out. Thanks.